personal level, I've made sure that every single day in this office, I put Canadians first, that I have people's backs. And that's why I'm here to tell you all that we got you. Even in the very last days of this government, we will not let Canadians down today and long into the future.
An emotional Justin Trudeau, one of his final press conferences as Prime Minister. The Liberals are set to elect their next leader Sunday, and the winner will be sworn in as Prime Minister probably within a matter of days after that. We've got our front bench back on the Prime Minister's time in office, David Peterson, Gary Marr, and Gary Dewar. David, I'll start with you because you made a mention in the last round about the way in which the Prime Minister has comported himself through this crisis in particular. What are your thoughts on sort of how this is coming to an end? It's been so overshadowed by all the tariff stuff, but I was thinking today as we were watching that press conference, oh, this is also happening at the same time.
Look, he's had a tough time in the last year or two, and I think this has been a wonderful couple of months of his leadership. He's brought the country together. He's working well with the premiers. He's brought a new spirit to it. So let's give him credit. Now, if you judge in terms of results, we're not seeing a lot of results, but this is a long-term battle we're in. And the next leader is going to have to pick it up. And and as are opposition leaders across the country, it's a very tough time for opposition leaders so to find any oxygen to contribute. But let's give Justin the credit he deserves. And he's here, even if you don't like him, he's here only 5 more days. And it's been nice. As a Canadian, I have enjoyed watching the exercise, not the result, not the fight, but this rekindling of this spirit, and you see more gentleness, you see leadership from the premiers, including Doug Ford. I take off my hat to him.
Gary Marr, I'll swing over to you. Your thoughts as we sort of enter the dwindling days of Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister?
A couple of things come to mind. I'd agree with Premier Peterson about the last few weeks of Justin Trudeau's time. I would point out that had he been showing this kind of national leadership a year ago, then he might not be ending his last days as Prime Minister next week. He took far too long to come around to the idea that dealing with Mr. Trump was going to be a reality. I think that, the kinds of things that the government should have been doing to prepare the kind of response that they're doing now, it was far too late. And the Prime Minister got caught up with a number of things in the last year, some of the issues of his own making and some of them not. But I agree with Mr. Peterson that, that these are his finest days. But unfortunately, what we don't know is who is going to be Prime Minister next week, nor do we know who will be the Prime Minister after the next general election. And so what we don't know is whether or not the kind of work that Justin Trudeau has been putting in will be carried on by his successor or successors in the future. And so for that reason, I wouldn't give Mr. Trudeau particularly strong marks for having set the country on the right track. He may have been on the right track, but he was far too late in coming to it, and we don't know what his successor or successors will do with it.
He did confirm today, Gary Dewar, that there will be a transition of power, however, because a few days ago he sort of made a comment about when would there be, a new Prime Minister, and he kind of, it made people ask again today, well, are you leading a caretaker government or something? He said, no, there will be a new Prime Minister next week. Your final thoughts on his time in office?
Well, I thought, as David Peterson said, Premier Peterson, and I thought he was pitch perfect this week on communicating Canada's reaction and opposition to what the president was doing. I thought his presentation was great. I watched it on CNN. I always like to know how the U.S. is covering it. They had the CTV feed, by the way, on for his presentation. I thought it was excellent. There's a shameless plug. And I thought, I thought he was smart today on dealing with his legacy, because I think the $10 a day childcare negotiated with every province is to use another hockey metaphor, is a hat trick. You've got affordability for families. You've got an excellent social program with childcare. It's all the research about early childhood learning and how long that can pay off in our communities and our families. And you've got a situation where it's good for the economy to have the opportunity to have more people in the workforce because of this excellent program. So he chose a good chapter today to end on, because I think it's a really good legacy. His ultimate legacy, like all leaders, will be determined by the next election, because part of what you got to do is hand it off in a way that will result in success, but that doesn't always happen. And we still have a chapter to write before we dot the last page.
Point taken. All right, I'll leave the conversation there. Thank you so much, all three of you, for making time for our program tonight. David Peterson, Gary Marr, and Gary Dewar, our front bench.